Okay, everybody, welcome back to another Cryptopolitan stream. I know it's been a couple of weeks since we did this, so it's really glad to have you all here again. Either if you're catching this live right now or you're watching this replay, it's always good to have the community here with us. Um, Today, we're going to be doing something a little different. This isn't going to be a crypto market recap. Today is entirely about AI, and there's a very specific reason as to why we're going to be doing that. Now, the last 2 to around 3 weeks in the AI space, I think they have probably been the most consequential stretch we've seen since ChatGPT launched in late 2022. And I think a lot of people, especially in crypto, are sleeping on just how big some of these developments are. So I want to walk you through all of it today because I think once you see the full picture, you'll understand why this matters way beyond just tech headlines. So let me give you a quick taste of what we're covering. Firstly, Anthropic, the company behind Claude. They have just revealed that their revenue grew 80 times in a single quarter. Not saying 80%, it's 80x. They've overtaken OpenAI in revenue run rate. They've signed a deal with SpaceX for over 220,000 NVIDIA GPUs, and they might be worth close to $1 trillion by the end of this year. That alone is a massive story in itself, but that's just one piece of what's happening in the entire AI space. Now, at the same time, Anthropic is actually in the middle of a full blown political and legal battle with the Pentagon. They got blacklisted, they were designated as a supply chain risk, actually were designated as this, which is a label that the US government usually reserves for foreign adversaries, right? Because they refused to let their AI be used in autonomous weapons. Meanwhile, eight of their competitors, including OpenAI, Google, and SpaceX, just signed classified military AI contracts. So, what you have right now is this incredible tension where the fastest growing AI company in the world is simultaneously being shut out by its own government. Then, of course, there's the entire courtroom drama that's taking place, right? Elon Musk is literally on trial right now, trying to dismantle OpenAI. He wants Sam Altman removed. He wants the for-profit restructuring basically unwound. Uh, and the stuff that's actually coming out in this testimony is pretty remarkable. It reads like a Netflix script almost. And also the outcome of this trial could genuinely determine whether OpenAI gets to IPO at anywhere near its current valuation. And of course, powering all of this underneath everything is the semiconductor space, which is absolutely going parabolic right now, as you can see. SanDisk, right? So the chart that you're seeing right now, SanDisk is up over 448% year to date, right? Uh, Samsung, they have just crossed $1 trillion market cap, and others in the space as well. Micron, I think they have passed a 700 billion as well. Basically, my memory chips are surging. Prices are surging because every AI company on the planet is scrambling for compute, and supply simply just cannot keep up. This is the hardware backbone of the entire AI industry. And as you can see, it's actually repricing in real time. So the question, of course, is why do we need to break this down? And honestly, I think it's because we're at a genuine inflection point. It's not a hype cycle, but it's an actual sort of structural shift that's taking place. Now, when you have revenue growing 80x in a single quarter, governments fighting over which AI gets access to classified networks, $1 trillion lawsuits, and of course the semiconductor stocks absolutely skyrocketing. These aren't, isolated stories. They're all connected, and they're all telling you the same thing. AI adoption just hit a completely different gear. And for anyone in crypto, in markets, in the tech space in general, if you're not tracking this, you're going to miss what I believe and what a lot of other analysts believe is the single biggest capital real allocation story of this decade, arguably. Because where AI goes, compute follows. Where compute goes, money or capital follows. And we're watching that happen right now in real time across every single one of these stories. So going forward, we are definitely going to be having more streams around the AI space because things here are moving so rapidly. So that's what today is about. We're going to go through each of these one by one. I'll give you the full context. I'll give you the numbers, the implications, and what I think it all means. We got a lot to cover. So let's get into the first story, which is around Anthropic and its insane quarter that it's just had. So let's start with that. Now, 2 days ago, on May 6th, Anthropic held their annual developer conference in San Francisco. It's called Code with Claude. And during the keynote, Dario Amadi, co-founder basically, CEO of Anthropic, dropped a number that I think caught even the most uh, plugged in people off guard. He basically said that Anthropic grew 80x in Q1 of this year on an annualized basis. Uh, Let me just say that again, 80 times, right? And the kicker here is that they had internally planned for a 10x in Q1. They thought 10 times growth would be the stretch target, and they absolutely blew past it by a factor of 8. Dario's exact words on stage were, "It's just crazy," and it's stuff like, "It's just too hard to handle." He literally basically said he hopes for more normal growth going forward, and that's how fast everything is scaling. So let me just put this in perspective and let me give you actual numbers, right? Uh, at the end of 2025, Anthropic's annualized revenue run rate was around 9 billion. By February 2026, it had climbed to 14 billion. Now, by March, 19 billion. By April, it's 30 billion. Now, according to a report that came out just a few days ago, this has again, this has again gone up, right? Uh, it's now past 44 billion in annualized run rate. That means they've been adding roughly 96 million in new annual revenue every single day over the past few months. Again, just to add another layer of perspective here, AWS, basically the gold standard of cloud infrastructure, took 13 years to reach 35 billion in annual revenue. Another example, Salesforce took over 2 decades to cross 20 billion. Anthropic has basically covered that ground in about a year. Now, what is actually driving this, right? What's driving this insane growth? And it's simple: one product above everything else. It's Claude Code. This is Anthropic's AI coding assistant. It launched in mid 2025, and it has completely torn through the developer world. Now, by September 2025, Claude Code's run rate had crossed around 500 million. By February 2026, it was past 2.5 billion, and it's only accelerated since then. And I think here's what makes this whole thing so structurally very interesting. Uh, it's not consumer driven growth, right? This isn't people paying $20 a month for a chatbot, right? Around 80% of Anthropic's revenue actually comes from enterprise. So 8 out of the Fortune 10 are actually cloud customers. Uh, so that again puts another layer of perspective there. And then there's the compute side of things, right, which ties into a story we'll talk about later. Uh, now, hours before Dario took the stage at the conference, Anthropic announced a deal with SpaceX, right? And this was a massive deal. This was a huge deal uh, to take over the full compute capacity at the Colossus One data center in Memphis. Basically, that's over 220,000 NVIDIA GPUs and 300 megawatts of capacity. This is the same data center, by the way, that Elon Musk's XAI built to train Grok. And now it's being handed over to a direct competitor. On top of that, they have a multi-billion dollar compute deal with Amazon already for up to 5 gigawatts, and also a separate deal with Google and Broadcom for another, I believe, 3.5 gigawatts starting in 2027. So basically, they are hoarding compute at a scale that rivals nation states and their infrastructure programs. So where does this leave them? Where does this leave Anthropic? Uh, I believe Anthropic is now in talks to raise roughly 50 billion at a valuation above 900 billion. If that closes, it would make them more valuable than OpenAI for the first time. On secondary markets, Anthropic shares have already traded at I think, an implied valuation of around $1 trillion. And Bloomberg, in fact, reported that Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley are in early stage discussions for an IPO that could happen as early as October of this year. So, just to zoom out for a second, this is a company that earned its first dollar in revenue less than 3 years ago. Today, it's on a trajectory to go public at $1 trillion valuation with 44 billion in run rate revenue. Infrastructure deals spanning SpaceX, Amazon, and Google, and a product in Cloud Code that is literally rewriting how software gets built worldwide. And it's as you can tell with the number of layoffs that we've been seeing over the past few weeks and months. We've seen Coinbase, we've seen Cloudflare today announcing, in fact, that they're laying off, substantial portion of their workforce. We can see how Cloud Code has disrupted the entire industry. Uh, okay, now that you actually understand the disruption that's taking place and the growth story, let's switch and talk about Mythos, because what Anthropic built there takes this whole conversation of AI and its capability to a completely different level. So let's go ahead and talk about what Mythos is actually all about and the potential for massive disruption there. Okay, so we've discussed the compute deals and everything. Mythos is basically Anthropic's latest model. It dropped on April 7th as a limited preview, and it's not like anything uh, we've seen before from any AI lab. Uh, this is certainly not a better chatbot. This is not a smarter coding assistant. Mythos is basically the first AI model that can autonomously discover security vulnerabilities in software and not just find them, but basically chain them together the way a state level hacker would. Uh, Let me just explain what that actually means in practice, right? Previous AI models, take it Claude, GBT, Gemini, whatever, they could help you with security research if you prompted them step by step. You'd say, look at this code, check for this type of flaw, now try this. The human intervention was always there. Mythos doesn't work like that. You point it at a system and it basically just goes, right? It sets its own goals, picks its own tools, finds a vulnerability, and then asks itself, Okay, can I use this to find another one and another one? It chains exploits together autonomously. That's a fundamentally different capability altogether. And the results have been pretty crazy to say the least. In testing, Mythos found critical flaws in some of the most widely used and heavily audited security infrastructure in the world, right? So stuff like TLS, OpenBSD, right? These are basically protocols that billions of devices rely on for every single day. Uh, it outperformed both human security researchers and every existing automated tool out there. So that's not a marketing claim. That's actually what came out of the evaluations. Now, the thing is, Anthropic clearly understands how dangerous this is, which is why Mythos is not publicly available. You can't just, go up and sign up or use it. They've kept it very restricted to a small group of companies under something called Project Glasswing. Uh, Roughly 40 organizations that are getting controlled access right now. Some of the names are exactly who you'd expect. There's Coinbase, there's Binance, there's JP Morgan. These are basically institutions that are looking at Mythos and saying, we need to know what this thing is, what it can find in our systems, and before anyone else uses something like it against us, right? So that's what it's being used for at this moment. And I think this is the part most for anyone and most people actually paying attention to the space. The immediate instinct when you hear AI that finds security flaws is to think about hacking, right? But the real story here is actually defense. Think about how much money gets lost every year to exploits in crypto alone. There've been over 3 billion in 2025, according to some reports. And a lot of those hacks weren't smart contract bugs, right? They were infrastructure level failures. There were key management, bridges, Oracle networks, right? All of these led to these vulnerabilities. Ethos is basically forcing the entire industry to expand what security means. It's not enough to audit your smart contract anymore. You need to be looking at uh, the cryptographic libraries, the communication protocols, the backend tooling, basically. So that's what's happening in here now. Uh, Also, to add to this, Bitcoin's underlying protocol still solid. The core cryptography is not what's at risk here. What's at risk is actually everything around it: the custodial platforms, the exchanges, the wallets, the open source tools that people use to actually move money. That's where the attack surface lives, and that's where Mythos is finding things. So, what's happening right now? You've got this incredible duality with Anthropic. On the one hand, they've built what is arguably the most powerful offensive, cyber capability that any private company has ever created. But on the other hand, they're they're the company that just got blacklisted by the Pentagon because they refuse to let their AI be used for autonomous weapons. So that tension is really there, uh, and is actually at the center of our next story. Uh, because Anthropic's relationship with the US government right now is one of the strangest and I would say most contradictory situations in tech. So let's just talk about what's happening with Anthropic and, yeah, the Pentagon and the entire military AI race. Okay, so earlier this year, the Pentagon came to Anthropic and said, we want to deploy Claude across our classified networks. Makes sense. Every branch of the military is racing to integrate AI right now. But there was a catch. The Pentagon wanted what they called all lawful purposes access. Basically, no restrictions on how they use it. And Anthropic came back and said, no, we have two red lines. We will not allow Claude to be used in autonomous weapon systems, and we will not allow it to be used for surveillance of American citizens. Now, in response, the Pentagon didn't like that. Negotiations broke down, and what happened next was pretty extraordinary. Uh, the Trump administration ordered all federal agencies to stop using Claude, and then the Pentagon went a step further. Uh, they designated Anthropic as a supply chain risk. Now, this label matters. Like I mentioned earlier, that's a classification the US government has historically reserved for foreign adversaries. You can think of companies like Huawei, uh, and they slapped it on an American AI company this time because that company basically said no to autonomous weapons. Uh, Let that just sink in for a second, right? Anthropic obviously wasn't going to take that lying down, so they went ahead and sued and they won. A federal judge issued uh, a preliminary injunction and absolutely tore into Pentagon's reasoning. The judge basically called the designation uh, likely both contrary to law and arbitrary and capricious as well. Now, this whole thing is, even after the ruling, the Pentagon CTO has maintained that the ban is still in effect and under any different legal authority. So Anthropic actually won in court, but is still functionally shut out. And on May 1st, so last week, uh, they made the exclusion even more visible. They announced classified AI deployment agreements with 8 companies: AWS, Google, Microsoft, OpenAI, SpaceX, and I think NVIDIA, Oracle as well. These companies are now approved to operate AI on impact level 6 and level 7 networks. That's basically secret and top secret classified infrastructure. And the Pentagon's framing was that they are building an AI first fighting force. 8 companies in, Anthropic, the one with arguably the most advanced model, out, right? So this has basically created a ripple effect across the industry, right? Google's inclusion in particular has sparked a huge backlash internally. There are hundreds of Google employees, signing an open letter opposing the deal. Several engineers resigned in protest. If you've been following AI for a while, this actually feels a lot like Project Maven, and it was a controversy back in 2018 when Google employees forced the company to drop a Pentagon drone imaging contract. But this time, leadership isn't backing down; they're actually pushing forward. Uh, yeah, so that's the state of play. The fastest growing AI company in history is simultaneously locked out of Pentagon and embedded inside the NSA. Uh, 8 of its competitors just got classified military access, and the whole thing is playing out against the backdrop of a federal lawsuit that a judge has already called unconstitutional. Now, one of those 8 companies that signed the deal is OpenAI, and OpenAI has its own set of problems right now because Elon Musk is coming after them pretty brutally right now. So let's talk about what's happening in the federal courtroom, right? Okay, let me just go on here. Okay, so quick background for anyone who doesn't know the full story. Musk was one of OpenAI's co-founders. He put in around 38 million in the early days when it was a non-profit, focused on building safe AI for the benefit of humanity. At some point, that relationship soured and it fell apart. Musk left the board went on to start his own company, XAI, and then sued OpenAI, claiming that Sam Altman essentially hijacked a charity and turned it into a for-profit startup for their own benefit. So that's the entire backstory. Now, this trial kicked off on April 27th. Uh, and what Musk is asking for here is it's not small at all, right? He wants the court to basically remove Altman from his position and unwind the corporate restructuring that allowed OpenAI to operate as a for profit entity. Now, if he wins, it could completely derail OpenAI's path to an IPO. And we're talking about a company that's been valued at close to $1 trillion, mind you. Now, the testimony so far has been, um, I don't even know how to describe it. It's been pretty chaotic, right? Musk took the stand and called himself a fool who provided them free funding to create a startup, and he accused Altman of trying to steal a charity. Right? It's pretty strong and harsh words. But then came the moment that really shook the courtroom. Right? Uh, Under questioning, Musk admitted to you know that basically XAI uses OpenAI's models to train Grok. His own AI product is being trained on the competitor's output. Now, that's a pretty big concession when your entire case is built on the argument that OpenAI caused you competitive harm. Uh, so it didn't stop there as well. Uh, a filing revealed that Musk texted Brockman about a possible settlement just 2 days before the trial started, right? And apparently Brockman suggested both sides to drop their claims and move on, right? Uh, so a lot of things is transpiring here, but OpenAI on the other end, they haven't come out clean either, right? Uh, Brockman testified that Musk has actually enlisted OpenAI employees to do months of unpaid work on Tesla's autopilot team. So there's a lot. There's also the Mars angle, which is insane in itself. I highly urge you all to go and read that up. Uh, but what's happening right now, and we can actually turn to prediction markets to this. Currently, the odds are that Musk's of winning are at around 40%, down from 60 when the trial actually opened. And I think hanging over all of this is the fact that XAI is expected to go public as part of SpaceX as early as June. And I think the target valuation is at around 1.7 trillion, which is insane in itself. Um, so yeah, what we've done now is we've covered the AI companies, right? We've seen the growth, the models, the politics, the lawsuits. But I want to spend some time now and actually talk about the layer underneath all of it, because we're seeing a massive bull run there right now. Uh, None of this would work without chips. And what's happening in the semiconductor space right now is genuinely insane. Right? I think this tweet basically sums it up. Uh, what we're seeing now is a a parabolic bull run in the semiconductor space, is almost like a super cycle. Okay. Now, every model, every training run, every interface call, it all runs on chips. And what's happening in the semiconductor space right now is pretty wild. Let's start with the name everyone's been talking about. We're talking about SanDisk, right? The company spun off from Western Digital about a year ago. At the same time, nobody was really paying attention. Since then, the stock has gone up. Let's just have a quick look again, because again today it's rallying. It's up around 11% today. But since a year ago, as you can see here, 3,841% in a single year, right? Year to date alone, it's up over 450%. They just crossed 200 billion in market cap. And when you look at the earnings, you understand why. Their most recent quarter revenue rose by around 250% year over year to nearly 6 billion, right? And SanDisk, again, isn't alone, right? We'll come back to that tweet. We see that the entire space is going through this parabolic bull run at the same time, right? Micron just crossed 700 billion. Samsung crossed $1 trillion market cap. SK Hynix jumped 10% and actually pushed the Korean stock market, the KOSPI index, above 7,000 for the first time in its history. So we're seeing a full scale bull market there. But what is actually driving this? And it's very simple, right? It's one word. It's memory, specifically NAND flash memory, which is basically the storage that goes into uh, the data centers powering every AI model on the planet today. And right now, there is a massive shortage of this. Every major AI company, Anthropic, OpenAI, Google, Meta, they're all racing to build out compute infrastructure at the same time. We just talked about Anthropic signing a deal for 220,000 GPUs from SpaceX's data center, right? Brockman testified that OpenAI plans to spend $50 billion on compute this year alone. That demand has to go somewhere, and it's going straight into the memory chip supply chain. So that's why we're seeing this huge bull run in this space right now. And just to add one more point, here's the thing that makes this structural and not just a temporary spike, in my opinion. Uh, New semiconductor manufacturing capacity takes around 2 to 3 years to come online. You can't just flip a switch and start producing more chips. So even if every chip maker on earth started building new fabs tomorrow, the this supply crunch could easily last into 2028. It's a supply demand imbalance with no, you know, no real near-term fix. And every AI development we talked about today, Mythos, Cloud Code, XAI, all of it only makes the demand side worse. Right? This is the part of the AI wave that's printing real money in public markets now. And I think for a lot of people, especially in crypto, semiconductors feel like a different world, but it's not. Uh, it's the exact same thesis. AI needs compute, compute needs chips, uh, chips need memory, and the companies that control that supply chain are now, as you can see, being repriced in real time. If you're tracking AI and you're not watching semis, um, I believe you're only seeing half of the picture. So, look, this is a space to watch. That's a wrap on today's stream. I know we covered a lot of ground today. And the reason I wanted to do this as a dedicated stream is because I think all of these stories are telling you the same thing. AI adoption just shifted into a completely new era almost. And the ripple effects are going to be felt across every market, including crypto. This is definitely going to be the first of many streams where we actually touch upon AI as a core subject. We're going to keep doing these streams alongside, though, of course, our regular crypto market recaps. We will be resuming them again. Uh, but honestly, these two worlds are converging faster than most people realize. So, on that note, folks, If you enjoyed this, make sure you're subscribed. Please hit that notification bell as well and drop a comment below letting us know what you want us to dig in the next time we will be back for another stream next week. We will resume our crypto market recaps, diving into the charts. I know a lot of you would like to see where we are in our space as well, so we will be resuming that. Uh, on that note, folks, thank you all for tuning in. Really appreciate every one of you showing up. We will see you all on the next one. Thank you, everyone.